It's the vibrational fit. And if anyone who's watching or listening right now doesn't know exactly what we mean, it's actually quite simple. We're energetic beings, right? And we all have a particular frequency that we're tuned into. If you're old enough to know what radio is, I don't think we still have radio, but if you're old enough to know what radio is, I remember being a kid and turning the dial on the radio, and then different music would come out. I'm like, where's the music coming from? I was mesmerized by that. And that's exactly what consciousness is. The station we tune into vibrates at a certain frequency, and that's what we experience.
Knocking Doors Down, Jason LaChance, your host here, and I'm excited to share this conversation I had with the awesome TJ Woodward and Dr. Reverend Temple Hayes. TJ is a revolutionary recovery expert, best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and addiction treatment specialist who has helped countless people through his simple yet powerful teachings. And Reverend Dr. Temple Hayes is a difference maker, spiritual leader, author, inspirational, motivational speaker. She's been all around the world. She's a humanitarian, and she is the president and founder of Life Rights and Global Peace Workers. And it was a real honor to have this conversation with them, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you because we're going to be a part of the Emergence Conference 2024, taking place Tuesday, September 17th and 18th in Marina Del Rey, California. I want to talk to you for a second. You are so amazingly unique. And don't ever forget it. We all know that our fingerprints are unique to us, and they're the only ones that will ever exist, the ones that we have on our hands, right? But also so's our sight. There's so many security things used for retinal scans and everything. That's because it's unique and will never exist to anyone else other than you, our voice. Now, it might sound like someone that we're related to or a celebrity or whatever it is, but it's so incredibly unique to us. If it wasn't, they couldn't use voice recognition software for so many different things. Your voice is yours. Forensic scientists have proved to a 99.6% accuracy that they can identify an individual by their ear. Yes, the inside and the outside. So that includes the hearing. So everything we see, everything we touch, everything we say, and everything we hear is unique to us in our human experience while we're here. You're the only you that's ever gonna be you. And that is extraordinary, and you're extraordinary, and you matter, and I appreciate you. Here's my conversation with TJ and Dr. Temple. Emergence 2024. I am so excited to be here, of course, with Dr. Temple and TJ Woodward. It's so good to see you again. This is going to be exciting. I'm so looking forward to fellowshipping with so many amazing people in person and just bringing value to a community.
Well, we are very excited as well. Absolutely. This is our 4th annual conference, and it gets better every year. So we're really super excited for this particular year.
Dr. Temple, you were saying you had something in your head about emergence, what it is that you download. What are you looking at here?
I have such a deep commitment to what TJ is doing, and it's not to puff him up so he'll like me, because he already does. We were just like brothers and sisters from another mother when we met. So when I think about it, and I think about emergence, to me, what it is and what it more so offers others, it's like nobody knew that you could do a mile in 4 minutes. Nobody knew that. They had this idea that it wasn't possible. It was strain, it was struggle, and no way. And one person came along and said, it doesn't have to be like this. And you can actually do it this way, and you can do a 4-minute mile. And ever since, it's like no big deal. And to me, if people say, why do I want to get involved in Emergence? Why do I want to get involved in these people? People are recovering all over the world. Yes. And there's so many people that don't understand. It doesn't have to be struggle, and it doesn't have to be hard. It's the 4-minute mile of recovery. That's what emergence is. That's what conscious recovery is. That's what my recovery was, is that when I was getting sober, I was immersed in spiritual conscious community. So I wasn't exposed to other rooms or other places where I heard about it's so hard, I'm miserable, should I go back to it? I just said, all I know is I want to build a template that I want to be one of the healthiest recovery people I've ever met in my life. And for the most part, aside from a little dysfunction every now and then, that would be true. And that's the deeper reason that emergence means the world to me, is because people need to see the 4 minute mile in recovery. People need to see that you struggle is when you're not listening to your inner being. Struggle is when you have to apologize to yourself. Like a guy asked me, a young kid asked me one day, Reverend Temple, do you find it hard? Because he was wanting to get sober. And I said, let me tell you what hard is. Hard is when you're out and about and you can't remember your name. Hard is when you don't remember where you parked your car. Hard is when you're fake and you call people pretentiously because the night before you were with them and that's all you remember, that you said hello and the rest is blank. Hard is every day your life is an apology. Sobriety, being with the grain of your life, running that 4 minute mile is a walk in the park. So that's the part that we are on this trailblazing effort, TJ, myself, to show people that it can be the most rewarding experience of your life. But if you continue to go back to the old pitiful little victimhood narrative, then you're going to continue to cause and attract more and more and more of that. So it's not the I don't drink and I'm miserable. I don't do drugs anymore and now I'm miserable. It's the fact that I've never really looked at the 4 minute mile. I haven't been around enough people that show that it is so, shall I say, almost easy if you're living in harmony with natural laws.
Yes, yes. And and TJ, we hadn't really had a good conversation since you were last on the podcast. And following that, I mean, I really have dug into your work and understanding consciousness even more. And Reverend Temple, I mean, you nail it. Like I went, why are some of these meetings that I was involved with, and it's not so much the people, but the vibe and the energy. Why is that not appealing to me anymore?
Mhm.
What you just said. There was a lot of people that and God, higher power, whatever your thing is, love them. I know they're struggling just to stay sober another 24 hours, but that's not me anymore. And
Mhm.
that's why I'm excited to be a part of this and come and see so many amazing people and converse and grow. And really, our conversation was huge for me, TJ, and pulling these thoughts like, oh, subliminally, I was doing this. Why am I doing this? Oh, write this out. Oh, you've kind of outgrown this. You're looking for that next place. You're looking for, as you would say, it's not simple, but it's easy.
Mhm.
Yes.
Wow. I love this. And Temple and Jason, both of you are speaking to the greatest passion of my life, which is to offer a message, not a message of hope in the classic sense of the word, but a message of wholeness, a message of you came into the world as a whole and perfect being. And then we're programmed by the world to believe we're limited or broken or damaged in some way. Sometimes I would say, of course we drank and used, right? The trauma of our life. If
Mhm.
I look at my life's experience, drugs and alcohol were the greatest gift that was given to me for many, many years until, of course, as Temple said, where's my car? But even more than that, which of course that's so true, even more than that, it's like, where's my spirit, right? I felt
Yes.
myself disconnected from my spirit, and drugs and alcohol were taking me further and further away from that instead of closer, right? So Temple, I love you and I love what you said about what if this could be easy? And when we look at Emergence as a conference, the conference is intended for all people in recovery, and there's a focus on people working in behavioral health. And when we get into behavioral health, that model seems to have been adopted. In other words, many clinicians, as a matter of fact, I would dare to say all clinicians are really trained to diagnose and treat what's wrong with our client, how do we help them, instead of what is whole and complete about this client and how do I empower them to actually heal rather than treat. So that's the bigger mission with conscious recovery, is shifting from a treatment modal or treatment modalities to healing and to wholeness. And that is a total game changer.
Agreed, because I see it so it lacks that ability, at least I know for me, why a lot of things just I hit a point again where they became unappealing was you there's nothing about this that is giving me any sort of skills, for lack of a better word, to understand who I was put here to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the journey I'm on. And that's the journey I enjoy.
I feel we definitely are at a place that it's time to non-apologetically be bold and brave. I mean, I was kind of keeping it clean. I didn't talk about, I don't remember who I slept with, but somebody told me I did. I mean, there's a whole lot to that sweet little juicy story. But I did that already. I did that already. And the idea of coming back to me is that not only is that not necessary, I mean, on a rare occasion, I will tell that story simply to give that energy or to ignite within someone, it's time to get back with yourself. But the other thing that I love about Emergence and this work is that we address the important parts. Because if you're going to be whole and treat yourself in the way of I was designed to be this way. Squirrels don't drink and they don't smoke cigarettes. Well, they don't eat sugar either. And so we address that. I mean, because that's a lot of the reasoning that children go from sugar, it's so commercialized. Sugar is in everything. Eat sugar, feel happy with sugar, eat your chocolate, drink your soda. And then when you're a little more mature, then you go into the wine and the other drinks, and then you numb yourself out. So that's a fantastic thing because we address the whole person. Mm-hmm. Because it's like Bob Newhart would say in honor of his recent life, just stop it. Just stop it. Remember that? So, yeah, it's so exciting because something is powerful when you can be living your life and not apologizing.
Absolutely.
There's something amazing when you honor the wholeness of yourself. And TJ and I, when we first got together, we realized we've been on the same mission for many, many years, in the way of we're not broken. We are so duped to believe we're broken, because if we believe we're broken, we're going to need something else that somebody has that we don't currently have. So we're going to buy more products. We're going to be more enslaved in our own minds. We're not going to be capable of thinking and being actualized for ourselves. And we're about, you've always been whole. Mm-hmm. You just believe the wrong story. You believe that nobody could do a mile in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's show you that there's a different way and it's a different story. And, I'm going to be real bold and say, if every day I needed to go somewhere to tell about something I did, 30 years ago, I probably would go back to drinking, because I'm not designed for victimhood. Yeah. I'm just not. Yeah. I'm coming up on, I always get to celebrate it with TJ, 37 years.
I love it. Knocking Doors Down by Carlos Vieira, now available wherever you get audiobooks.
I wasn't done partying, and I didn't want the binge to end. I think I knew that when I finally got home, I'd have to face what I had done, and I wasn't ready to do that. Being responsible for my actions wasn't something I was looking forward to. I had abandoned my wife and baby, my family, and my business. I wanted to avoid the shame of returning to what I had left behind. Even though I was not yet going home, I wasn't sure I had enough resources to continue the binge.
Click the link in the podcast description to find out more. Well, and TJ, from our conversation on here, and I think you've listened to other episodes, that's why I spend so little time, what you were saying, Dr. Temple, in... I'm past having a conversation about your addiction story. Give me the brief cliff notes so that we can give people relevance, and let's move along to solutions that you found to continue to live a whole, complete, and thriving life. I'm just over it. Like I am because I'm with you. When I've had people, will you be a speaker meeting? I'm like, okay, but I give very little of my story, and then I give a whole lot of what the solutions have been for me to try to, get people's wheels turning of, oh, that might work for me. Because I just can't sit in it anymore. It takes me right back to being that victim that I played for 40 years of my life.
Well,
Yeah.
TJ and I have actually turned down some really great opportunities because once we get involved in what is your mission, to keep reminding people that it's natural to feel like a victim, to be miserable, to be enslaved, that kind of thing. It's like, oh, no, it's not a vibrational fit for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? It's the vibrational fit. And if anyone who's watching or listening right now doesn't know exactly what we mean, it's actually quite simple. We're energetic beings, right? And we all have a particular frequency that we're tuned into. If you're old enough to know what radio is, I don't think we still have radio, but if you're old enough to know what radio is, I remember being a kid and turning the dial on the radio, and then different music would come out. I'm like, where's the music coming from? I was mesmerized by that. And that's exactly what consciousness is. The station we tune into vibrates at a certain frequency, and that's what we experience, right? So, as energetic beings, if I'm focused on what's wrong and what's broken, I will continue to get more of that. If you look at it purely through the just habit change, we can take all the spirituality out, all the frequency and vibration that I'm talking about. Habit change is very, very simple. There was an extensive study done on habit change, and this is what they discovered. And I love how simple it is. They probably spent a lot of money to come to this, but we change habits based on what we do want, not on what we don't want.
Right.
And that alone is a complete shift in consciousness, because if I'm focusing on the narrative that we hear, I don't want to forget how bad it was, so I don't repeat it. I think that is important for about a week, maybe two, because I think it'll work for a couple of weeks. Okay, as simple as I don't want to lose my car. I do want to know where my car is, right? But when we shift to what we do want to create in our life, what we do want, and what we all want at the deepest level is love and connection. That's how we come into the world. A little infant, we know if an infant doesn't get hugged, it literally dies, not just spiritually or emotionally, but physically as well. So we're all seeking love and connection. And as Temple said so beautifully, when I'm disconnected from my true nature, then I believe I'm broken. And then I think the world needs to provide that. That's how we see all the conflict in the world too. You need to say it a certain way so that I can be comfortable. You need to do it a certain way so that I can be safe. The next relationship is going to save me. That's why we call it the honeymoon period. For a month or so, it's, oh, this person's so amazing. Then we realize, oh, they're a human being. And more than that, that great ache, because I call addiction a great ache. There's this great ache that's wanting to be healed. And we think it's coming from outside in, whether that's all those things, sugar, drugs, alcohol, relationships, shopping. But the truth is, as we plug back into source, our true nature, then we're sharing that with the world, and it's the whole paradigm shifts, and it can happen instantly.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, one of my slogans, no outside solutions to inside problems. And that really, for me, I asked every mentor that I had up to that, did you say that? And they're like, no, I think you just kind of took from some different things and amalgamized. And the reason what it really landed on for me was the last thing that I was able to consciously take a look at, that I was looking external of myself to solve me, and you nailed it right there, TJ, was relationships. This person is complete me. I was so in love with the idea of love, the soulmate. And it's like, really, can you have 25 soulmates in your life? And does it work that way? And it was important to take a look at that, because I think we're doing a better job of the lack of a better term, fringe addictions, so to speak. The relationships, sex, food, shopping, gambling. We're getting at those things. So I think it's so important to bring those things to the forefront in conversations around them, because I see, and you both have been in this a lot longer than me, people that just stop with the chemical and go, I'm good, and never take a look at those things, never dive deeper. And they still sit and wonder why, like, my life's changed, but it hasn't really changed. Well,
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about addiction, sometimes we think, oh, I'm addicted to this, then I'm addicted to that, right? And then we have these what we call cross addictions where I put down the drugs and alcohol and suddenly I find myself addicted to something else. But the truth is, we're actually, because we're disconnected from our true nature, we're walking around with our umbilical cord. So it doesn't really matter so much what the behavior is because it's something that's happening internally. And what Temple and I are up to and what we love about Emergence is we bring together speakers who are speaking to that. I've been in the field, the behavioral health field for 17 years, I think. And most conferences are PowerPoints. Most conferences are very cerebral. Most conferences, we come and we hear the science and we learn intellectually. But the truth is, we really change by experience. So we've handpicked.
I'm going to say it better. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
say it better. Do it. I love it.
There's somebody in front of the room showing their very fancy, put together 30 slide PowerPoint, and everybody else is sitting outside talking to each other.
Yeah, we're in no PowerPoint zone at Emergence. No PowerPoints allowed.
It's from the heart. It's from experience. You know, there's that old saying that says, whatever you want in your life, make sure to have those people in that boat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, have those people in that boat. And what TJ was likened to is that God is not a Maytag repairman or repairwoman. And so it's like everything is made anew in the now, creation, creative consciousness, conscious recovery is in the now based upon who I am now. And that's why the narrative is so important, because people will gather around and put people in their boat that are struggling, and it pulls them down. Mm-hmm. And those are the kind of things that we address. A sacred healer can be an example, but not take on everybody else's woos and woes, because it will pull you down. You know, it will create that invisible layer around you. And that's why it's so important to be very selective as to who you're doing your training with. Mm. Again, the 4-minute mile. If you've got everybody on the sidelines saying it's never been done, it's never been done, it's you got to do this and that, it's never been done. Well, that's going to be your result. You are going to be successful by not being successful.
Yeah.
But if you have that mentality around you that goes, wow, I believe in you. I've seen when you set your mind to something in your heart, you're going all the way with this. It's so powerful. And I love talking to the people that TJ's organization brings in and to watch that light come on, because there's so many of us that believe in the 4-minute mile.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said something, there that makes me think of one of the biggest struggles that I hear from people is that idea of being present and really embracing and TJ, as I continue to work more into dig into some of your work and Reverend Temple, I look forward to meeting you in person, because I'm gonna probably question here now, what about this? Like, I already got a bunch of notes in my head, but I see that as being one of the biggest struggles, and that's what I really appreciate about what your approach was when you first invited me and we had a conversation, TJ. Like, this isn't a PowerPoint thing. I'm like, oh, thank God. I was a teacher for 5 years, and everybody was on their phones. Nobody paid attention and got anything out of it. And I'm really interested in why this approach and setting the environment in this way. Because I know for you, it was a conscious decision to be like, this is how I want it to be and be different.
Yeah, and I'll put it this way. What happens is we go to these conferences, and as Temple, I love how bold you are with it. Yes, very so smart people teach us all of the mechanics of addiction or the mechanics of brain science or all the things. And I'm not saying that's not important, but what I am saying is what happens is clinicians go to these conferences and maybe they're on their phone, maybe they're paying attention, but they get something from it. Then they go back to their treatment programs or their therapy office or their healing center, and they try to deliver that in that same cerebral way. And our clients don't really change by the intellect alone. I could go into any treatment program probably in the world and find a client that could stand up and literally facilitate or teach a relapse prevention group better than many of the clinicians who work there. So what that's telling me is we don't really change only by in a mental way. A lot of the modalities focus on the mind. Most treatment focuses on the mental with a little bit of emotional mixed in. We're talking about a deep spiritual shift, and that shift comes through an experience. In other words, we know that when someone hears a speaker, they only remember about 10% of the content. What do they remember? How they felt. Right, how I felt being in the room when this happened. I'm thinking about Kathleen Murphy, Temple. I know you heard her last year, and she's speaking again this year. She's opening the whole conference this year. It is quite an experience being around her when she's doing a presentation. If you asked me what she spoke about last year at Emergence, I'm sorry, Kathleen, but I don't remember what you talked about. What I do remember is the power of the experience. That's the same with you, Temple. When I hear you speak, and again, I'm sorry, I don't remember what you said, but I do remember the energy. I do remember the feeling. I do remember looking around and watching people do this. So the point to Emergence is to have an experience together, because for those of us who have trauma, which is every human on planet Earth, because we came in as infinite beings and we were told we were broken in some way, we shift by reconnecting with our true nature. And as we reconnect with our true nature, we can start to look at all these ideas that we have about ourselves, but it's not a thought, it's an energy. That's really what we're up to, is we're coming together to have this experience with one another.
Have you dug into the archives of past Knockin' Doors Down podcast episodes? The Knockin' Doors Down podcast archive is available to you for free. Check it out. Here's a snippet from when Charlie Sheen was on the podcast.
There's another thing to consider that's just practical and real and true and rampant. Fentanyl.
Yeah.
Fentanyl. You keep fucking around with street drugs these days. I mean, there's a 90% chance that it's gonna have fentanyl. And there's a 90% chance you're not gonna survive it.
This episode and so many more in the Knockin' Doors Down archive. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumb up, leave a comment, and share with somebody else that you know will get value out of the Knockin' Doors Down podcast.
Well, to me, it's two or three things that come up, and maybe it's attitude. For me, when somebody's standing in front of the room and they are giving me all the reasons as to why I am the way I am, and they've never been that way and they have no experience in it, I've already written them off. I mean, if I want to listen to people who have done it, and we have an addiction crisis in the self-help movement, where we have so many people that have learned behavior, learned how to say the 3 points, learned, and to tell us why we are how we are. And the true shift for any of us, as I said, seeing somebody do it, and then you know it can be done. And so when you are up there, I spoke a couple of years ago in Florida, and they had all these big head people coming in with all these graphs as to why they're this way, and the neuro fires this, and that hits that, and that affects that. Just tell me what to do or not to do. I have all these reasons to explain why we're still coming from the premise that we are broken. Yeah. And there will not be, in my humble opinion and bold Leo opinion, there will not be a radical shift until you start coming from the level of knowing that I'm gifted, I'm one of a kind, I was sent here, I am not broken, and I'm coming from a place of wholeness. Then you're talking about radical change, because therefore anything you attempt to bring in, some kind of label, something you learned on a PowerPoint, if it doesn't fit in that standard of I'm coming from wholeness, then it won't stick. It won't be Velcro.
Yeah.
And the other part about that with the self-help industry is so much of it now is headsy. Headsy. In order to really get to the depth of knowing you, it requires depth. It requires going from here to here in a way of ownership, doing the work, revealing oneself. And the chatter, so I can call myself one more thing, is not a permanent shift. I've seen it. I've walked in it. I've walked with it. The way to make the radical shift is the way that it's emergence.
Yeah.
And it's not because I love TJ that much, because I do, but it's about this is the way it works. You don't see oranges on the truck wishing they were lemons. You don't see a hummingbird regretting that sometimes they have to fly backwards. Oh, I wish I could be this. I wish I could be an osprey, or I wish. We are the only creation, I feel, in nature that doesn't fully own, this is my path. This is who I am. This is what I was designed to be and experience. Oh, let me be influenced over here and over here and over here and over here, coming from a place of I'm not enough. Let me talk about my parents when I'm 50 years old. Let's slap you. You're a grown up. 30, that's the line. You don't get to blame your parents anymore.
Yeah.
So, I get worked up.
Good. I'm loving you already. And my thing with that term of continual the brokenness language is just like I didn't get sober to live a disempowering life.
No.
Like somebody dropped it on me, and I can't remember who it was, and this was probably my first jump into recovery. Went, let me see your hand, and I held my hand up, and they go, "Wow, I will never see that again." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, your fingerprints are unique to you; they will never exist again." And there was something about that. As like, I'm getting chills just thinking back to how much that resonated. Oh my gosh, like my retinal scan, my fingerprints, all these things. So what I see, what I touch, even what I hear and how I vocal, it's all unique to me in this whole wonderful existence of humanity. And I will be the only me that is ever me. Wow. I mean, what an empowering thing to come into and to understand.
Yeah. And to add to that, when we look at the industry of behavioral health, I talk to my fellow clinicians and it sounds something like this. Oh, I'm feeling so burnt out. I have such a big caseload. Oh my gosh, I have to facilitate 6 groups this week. Oh my gosh, when am I going to do some self-care? When am I going to? There's this narrative that happens. And I remember when I worked full-time in treatment, I would say to my husband, oh my gosh, I get to go work with the angels today. I get to go work with the precious ones. And he's like, who are you talking about? I'm like, the clients. They're unique, perfect expressions of source energy. They're divine. They're beautiful. I remember when my first job in the field, it was a 48-bed facility. And I remember I would take the ferry to work. This was at Altamira in Sausalito. I would take the ferry to work and I would just start to feel the love of these 48 souls. And I would start to connect with them as I was taking the ferry across the bay. And I remember walking, into the gate as the gate opened. And I had this thought, if I thought there were 48 damaged or broken people on the other side of this gate, how exhausting and depleting would this job be? But instead, I feel like it's the greatest honor that I get to be with them today, to help them navigate possibly the most difficult moment of their life, but to help them remember who they are as an infinite being. And yes, they have all these diagnoses. And yes, they have the trauma that needs to be healed. And yes, they have all of that, but that's not who they are. And that shift in the paradigm, as Temple's talking about, is the profound shift. That's really what we're up to at Emergence. That's what we're up to in conscious recovery. We're not saying like, how do we come up with a new technique to treat our clients? That's not what we're doing. We're saying the paradigm is ready to shift. And Temple, I love it. We're going to run the 4-minute mile together. And not only are we going to run the 4-minute mile together, we're going to know that our clients can do that too. And that shift is so profound and it's way beyond anything the mind can create.
Yeah.
Yeah. And And when we look at this, it's like in our society, we have access to more knowledge than ever. We are on knowledge freaking overload. How does it go from knowing to growing to showing? And so, in that space, when somebody is being a martyr around me, the answer is you need to go do your shadow work.
Mm.
You need to deal with your shadow work because, first of all, if anybody you are working with, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in addiction care, as long as you see people sick and you forget and you start seeing them sick, you need to go home because you're not in the right field, because it's about the wholeness. So you're embracing your own wholeness and you're seeing the other person, and that's where you start. That's where you start, right there. And then when you start getting into that conversation of, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, and I'm so busy and all that, get a country music song. I mean, come on, move out of the way so someone with love being in that position could be in that position. Or, as we tell people at Emergence, go do your inner work. Because if martyrdom is victimhood, it's another way of presenting it. A busy calendar that, oh my God, I have no choices. I'm so tired. Do not be doing that stuff around me. Your calendar is not an IV, and get over it. It's another way. And this is what happens, is that people change the language of what they're saying, but underneath, there's still struggle.
That's
I don't
right.
even use the word struggle. Well, I am right now to make a point. I mean, struggle is not in that vocabulary. And so things must change. So what happens is a lot of times people will just change one thing for the other, right? It's like the 4-minute mile. It's like, oh, I can only do 3 minutes. My coach told me that's the best I can do, and he's tired. He can't work with me anymore because he's got 12 other people he's working with. Get a new coach that says you can do a 4-minute mile. So you change radically everything to fit the new language of the new you.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many people in healthcare. It's like you just want to walk through the halls and say, go home.
Jason, do you love meeting Temple in this way? Isn't it great?
Yeah.
Go home. I used to write down when I would do this kind of stuff in CEUs and healthcare, please never send me there.
Let me ask you both this, and working with an individual who owns treatment center, and he really talks about when he uses broken, he doesn't use it about the individual. He uses it about the way in which addiction recovery is approached in the treatment process. That we are at a phase. I mean, our number one killer in the world is addiction, people. It's overdose.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking more people out. Our young people we're losing them. Over 100,000 a year in our country. And I am hopeful, talking with you two amazing spirits, that we're going to be able to get this out there and help people understand, like, the way we've been doing things. That was created like back in the 30s. It doesn't work anymore. I don't even know that it worked that great then. Like, we've got to get this new way of thinking about how we help people and helping them think different about themselves and life and this gift that we don't know when that last piece of sand drops, but it's really great until you get to there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 100%. And I will say that instead of viewing now the industry as broken, we're going to actually practice conscious recovery on the industry. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Because listen, I've been on Zooms private Zooms, not public like this, where the conversation is, oh, the healthcare system is broken. Well, we're just adding to it, right? So instead of that, we'll say, no, we're here to offer a different possibility. Let's be in this new frequency. We're going to say, no, we're not going to participate. We're not trying to change a broken system. We're coming in and saying there's something totally new here. And Jason, I can feel that you're on fire with it. Like I feel it. I feel that you've had this moment like Temple and I have both had where it's like, oh my gosh, this whole time I've been on this journey of brokenness where I'm just putting I know Temple's from the South. So in the South, they would say putting lipstick on a pig, right? Which just means we're trying to dress up something. Right?
I've never heard that ever. Are you
You've
sure?
never heard that? Oh my
I've
gosh.
heard that.
Okay,
No, here's the one. Stop trying to teach the pig to sing. It makes you mad and it angers the pig. That works.
So we're not trying to change a broken system. We're trying to offer a different possibility. The theme for Emergence this year is cultivating a deeper connection. And that's what really is required for us to make a big difference. And as Temple so beautifully said, what is wanted within me so that I actually can be a field of presence, right? I have to know, as our friend Marianne Williamson says, it's our light that often most frightens us, right? Who are we to be talented, gorgeous, and fabulous? Actually, who are we not to be? And so there's something we've been taught in the consciousness of planet Earth that somehow it's humble to be less than. As Temple said, like, don't for a hummingbird to not think they should be a hummingbird. We are here to shine this light. We are here to be a presence for people. And a lot of times people have been taught, don't bring yourself into the room, don't have any emotions, just be a blank canvas. We're up to something totally different. And that is, I'm going to do enough of my own healing, my own reconnecting with my true nature so that I can actually see that potentiality in the person I'm sitting with. And, we could do a whole show on quantum mechanics, but that observer has a profound effect. So if I'm saying, oh, Temple, I'm so happy you're here in treatment. Let's talk about everything that's broken about you. We're going to spend the next 15 minutes talking about, and I'm not saying that it's not important to do some of that work, but how I'm viewing the person I'm sitting in front of as the anchor, as the first step, that's what we're up to. That's the conversation we're having now.
Absolutely. And we want to start our own recovery centers. So, and showing models of which that works. So if you're investors out there, give us a call. Give us a call. Call today, 1-800-NEW WAY. No, I mean, really, that's going to be what will be the radical shift. Is showing, how to get it done and to do that 4-minute mile and every person doing that accordingly. That's what excites me, is seeing that totally changing and transforming, because that's what is so needed.
Yeah.
Right, TJ?
Wholeheartedly agree.
That's what's needed. Yes.
And thank you, TJ, for what you were saying there, because I still, I'm 6'2", 6'3", depending on what convenience store I'm walking out of. And what you were talking about there is still one of those things. And I got a little emotional because I know something at the conference is going to come out that is going to help me, that I still try to be less than, dim my light at times to make others comfortable. Even in my mind, where and conscious, like, it's not the right way to be. Now you're just making yourself uncomfortable for the sake of what you tell yourself about how other people will think and or see you. And I know that's a huge struggle for so many.
Yeah. And I think when we look at our field, a lot of us come into the field thinking that we're broken and that we're going to go save people, right? And that is that martyr complex that really is the other side of the coin, as Temple said, to victimhood. In other words, I'm going to see my clients as victims. We see a lot of activism living in this. Temple and I are both very much about spiritual activism. What does that mean? It's not these poor people need me. It's no, I'm here to be a presence. That's the activism piece, is to empower someone to realize how infinite they are. right? And then that same way, a person who starts working in this field because they feel damaged and they're going to go save people, it's like the Statue of Liberty complex, bring me your poor, your yearning masses are yearning to be free, right? I'm going to save you. And I see that dynamic get played out a lot. So we're going to unplug from that and say, what if no one needs saving? Right. And at the same time, what you said, between overdose and suicide and all these other ways that mental health isn't always addressed or mental health concerns aren't always addressed, this is the greatest pandemic on planet Earth. And the pandemic is it's yearning to be healed. And what does that mean? It's not about like, let's, build bigger walls so the drugs don't get in. The drugs would not come into this country if there was not a market. And there is a
That's
massive
a cosmic joke. Give me a break. This country has enough problems. It has nothing to do with these illusion of this made up crap about other people jumping the wall to come over here. Why would they bother? We're so confused about who we are as an ununited America. Give me a break.
We could do a whole show on moving beyond polarization
It's
because
so ridiculous. People buy that fear and that too sweet apple pie. Like, anyway. Well, the other thing is, there's a big difference to what TJ's saying, is for people to understand there's a difference between being a caregiver and a caretaker.
Yeah.
The caregiver is a lighthouse. Lighthouses do not move when the ship is lost out to sea. It brightens its light. It is steadfast. It's immovable. It's unshakable. My work is to be a lighthouse as best I can. Be a lighthouse, reassuring. Here's the 4-minute mile. You can do it. Come on. If this is the way it works, you can actually be happy. Oh my gosh, you can welcome every day. Have a life without apologizing for who you are. Blah, 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 blah. And there's the caretaker. Oh, taking on. I'm taking on their woos and their woes. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm so exhausted. That's helping no one. That's helping no one, because that's continuing to feed enslavement and, not being empowered. And it's like, just move over, take another assignment, do crossword puzzles. But that's not helpful for holding the higher image. And it's so important, that we do that. And yes, within what I noticed in my early days of coming around to the broader awareness of recovery, is that there was this energy that I would feed. What's wrong? Somebody would call, do you have a minute? I really need to talk to you. What's wrong? Not, oh, what do you have to tell me? And so, yes, there are core patterns of response that we retrain, that we teach individuals to be aware of, that it's a sensation, but it doesn't have to be true for you. It's just a sensation. And when you honor that sensation, and then you go, oh, silly me, that's a past sensation. Then you create the new recovery, the conscious recovery sensation. That's no longer a response. So you literally shift your habits, the way you respond, and it just gets easier from there. Absolutely. But see, a lot of people don't want to tell you how easy it is, because they can make too much money off of you. Don't forget that. They can make a lot of money. I've never heard of, I've got to pay somebody $15,000 to teach me how to go sit outside and ohm. Okay.
Oh goodness, you're amazing, Temple. Absolutely.
I don't know if that's the word, but I'll take it.
Well, that's the place you've already gotten in my head and heart. How about that?
That I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you.
TJ, anything else that you want to lend before we wrap this up?
Yeah, just inviting everyone to join us. Emergence is a conference happening. It's 2 days, September 17th and 18th in Marina del Rey. Jason, you're going to actually be doing your podcast live, either
Oh my
in a
God, I'm
suite
so
somewhere
excited.
or hopefully right in the lobby as people enter, having like conversations that really truly matter. I'm so grateful for you for that. Yes, because I love that you have this platform where you are in conversations about a different possibility. So I invite people to join us, consciousrecovery.com/emergence. Join us 2 days, Marina Del Rey. And let me tell you, it is a fabulous place with a fabulous view. There's even a helipad. So if you want to fly to the conference, you can fly in.
I'll get my wings prepped. I'm coming in.
Perfect.
That's right. That's right.
The link, of course, is in the podcast description. TJ Temple, thank you so much. I was looking forward to it, and I didn't think I could look forward to it even more. And now it's growing immensely, and I'm so honored to be a part of this. And thank you both for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the blessing.
Absolutely.
On that note, remember, no outside solutions to inside problems, and keep knocking doors down.